Sounds good. Yeah.
And here's Graham.
Well, great.
Hello
Graham,
there.
Graham just arrived. Welcome, Graham.
Thank you.
So we can get started. I think Craig is a maybe for today.
Didn't
So
sound
he,
like he.
he
Email said he wouldn't be here, that he with us. He has a meeting in Boston at 5:30.
Oh, okay then. Hold on, I'm just checking my email again.
It was in
Okay.
his router information. He slipped it in there.
He slipped it in there. All right. Well, I'll have to read it during the meeting then.
Hmm.
Um, welcome everyone to the January 28th meeting of the MLP Board and Broadband Committee. I'm Gail Huntress, MLP Manager, facilitating the meeting. This meeting is fully remote. Participating also remotely, we have MLP board members Jim Hemingway, Graham Septon, and Stephen Schmidt. And also joining us, we have community member Andy Reagan, who is also driving today and is interested in perhaps joining our team as an MLP member. So I invited him to join us to kind of get a feeling for what we're all about. And Graham, you didn't hear this. He also serves on the fire department, so is well versed in town town politics and everything.
Town stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gail, you said Andy is also driving today, but everybody, the rest of us appear to be stationary right now.
Oh, I
Oh,
meant Craig. Craig is like driving
oh,
away. Yeah,
oh.
that was my reference. No, I'm not driving.
Hmm. No.
Yeah. Um, all right. So first order of business is to approve the meeting minutes from February 17th as amended by Jim.
You mean
I
December,
move the
right?
minutes be accepted. Second,
December 17th, right?
I do. I do. Oh my goodness. I'm jumping ahead terribly. December 17th. Thank you.
Oh, I move those minutes be accepted. and I second.
Thank you. All right. All in favor, Jim,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Graham?
Aye.
Excellent. All right. Let's see. Hut report. Graham, do you want to share the news about the new space heater and HVAC settings?
Yes, yeah. So I did put in that space heater that we discussed last meeting, and I set it to. I currently I tried a few different settings, but anyhow, it does save energy, and it is keeping the hut even in this polar vortex. The temperature in the hut indoors only went down to 57 degrees on the coldest night. And 57 degrees is fine. Mostly it's keeping it in the 60s. Even saying the temperature, I can see, Gail, you're pulling up your zipper.
I am. All of a sudden you reminded me I'm cold.
What a terrible temperature. But anyhow,
Yeah.
fifty
Yeah.
seven just 57 is moved fine next to for. my stove. So, so anyhow, so that the and in looking at the power monitoring for the hut, I see that it is using less power to heat it that way than to run the heat pumps trying to scratch heat out of 0 degree air. So that's good, and nothing else much in the hut to say.
Great. Did you ever hear back from Frank about the townwide energy audit?
Yeah, I let him in, and he didn't give any further information about it. But I showed him that I did send him the exact amount of kilowatt hours we used in the last 2 years. So they can look at that and think about it. Yeah, one could definitely make a case that because heating the hut is more of a thing than cooling it in the summer, energy-wise, that it could make sense to put a layer of insulation on the roof and maybe on two of the walls. It would be one would, I suppose, look at the the payback on that. it might take it might take a long time to pay back. But that's something that the energy audit people might think about. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to making improvements there. If I remember though, the like the R value of those concrete structures is very good.
No, it's
It's
not.
not.
It's not. It's a minimally insulated structure. I guess it's because utility huts, they just don't expect to have them heated. It wouldn't meet building code uh, to heat that building at the moment. So now the R values, the walls are, a couple of inches thick of a concrete composite, but it's not a very good R value.
Oh, I stand corrected. I thought because it was so like thick concrete that it was
Yeah,
good,
yeah,
but no.
yeah, no.
Oh, all right then.
But that was Frank you talked to, Graham?
Frank, yeah, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
okay. What's
He in
Frank's,
his he's in the building committee and he was the liaison for the buildings, I guess.
what's his last name, just out of curiosity?
Oh, Frank.
McGinnis, right? Is
Yeah,
that right?
McGinnis. Very good. Yeah, yeah.
McGinn,
McGinnis.
McGinnis.
McGinn,
Yeah.
I think.
Oh,
Okay,
maybe. Some of my contact list. Uh, I get back to you on that,
that's all right.
Jim.
That's all.
Keep talking.
Okay.
Well, Graham, I have further question for you about the new heater. So but we'll let you do one thing at a time here.
Yep,
Okay.
it's Frank McGinn. You're right.
Yeah, yeah.
McGinn, not
Good
Frank
memory.
McGinnis,
Okay.
Yeah.
which would be the beer, which is not
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, Steve, what's your question?
yeah, so I'm curious. Maybe next time you're up at the hut, if you think, let me know. I'm trying to get more knowledge now of the hut since you're going to be stepping down. And, I was really involved in the hut when it was first installed, so I want to kind of get back into that loop. So I just like to get up there and see the new heater and how it's set up. But particular questions, so have you got both HVACs turned off now?
One of them is turned off. One of them. But okay, so the HVAC that's being used is being used yeah, that if the temperature goes to 75 degrees or above, well, if it goes to 75 degrees, it'll start pumping heat out of the hut. So it
It's
is
in
our
cooling
it is
mode.
our cap on
Mhm.
and should that single HVAC fail, then this time of year, as exhaust air just blasts in if the temperature goes above 84 degrees. And I test that. And when we go there together, I'll show you how to test that just to make sure the exhaust air
Okay.
fan works. I do it once a year.
And do we have is there a thermostatic control on this new heater?
Yes, there is. Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's set and it's really clear. You can just look at it and see it's got nice bright numbers. So, and
Okay.
it's a no-brainer to turn it up and down. It's a push button.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this Gail also involves you. We should probably update our operations manual now to uh, reflect that we've got this change in the heating system.
Yep, already done.
Oh,
Yeah,
great.
yeah. Yeah, I keep like our broadband manual is kind of a living document.
Yeah.
So I did things like update with our 2025 electricity usage, all those numbers and things that just tend to get lost over time. I try to keep it updated.
Great.
Um, and also, we will have to think about a succession plan for Graham for the hut maintenance. So, Steve, you bring up a good point. I think after we get through kind of the budgets and this grant thing, we can start working on that in like April, perhaps April, May. Okay, other things, maintenance and service, pretty normal. We had 30 support tickets in December. Nothing unusual there. Um, Financially, we're in really good shape. We're about $112,000 in the black. But don't get too excited about that number because we have that debt payment of 97,000 coming up in April. However, we also have another 4 months of revenue expected. So that's going to equal about another 120K. So I am expecting to be cash positive by about 80,000. Again, we have no idea what the rest of the winter is going to bring. We don't know about maintenance. There's so many contingents. But anyway, if it is a normal year, we should end up in with plenty of cash flow. And even if it's a bad year, I see no risk that our budget is gonna be under.
What was that figure again for what's in the account?
Sure,
I missed that.
112,300.
Okay,
112, comma 300.
okay, got it.
Are payments from Sheld coming in regularly now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I know there was a point early on with them. I know there was some um, some adjusting to the changeover to Sheld. So, but
No, yeah, we're in a really nice rhythm now, both with their MLP payments coming in and the invoicing coming in. And it comes in not quite monthly, but like every 5 weeks.
okay, good.
So um all right, in other news, I got notified from Verizon that there's a rate change for our joint owned poles. Um, so it's going to raise by about 20%, like everything else,
Okay.
20% going up. So it's the bill came for 2908 up from 2395. Um,
Even though these poles are almost all the poles are completely depreciated.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, of course, not all of them because,
the 7 miles of upgrades.
yeah,
Hmm.
mm, hmm.
Yeah.
You
Um,
pay coming and going. Yeah. But yeah, I guess they would say that they also have to repair poles, when there's storms and stuff. So they may be depreciated poles, but they have to keep them in good shape on the street.
Gail, do you,
yeah. Yeah, and it's, the increase isn't going to break our bank, but it's just like, like, the cost of everything seem to just,
yeah,
going up 20%. Everything's up 20%. I have not gotten the notification nor a bill from Eversource or National Grid saying that they're raising prices. It may be because they have more constraints as the incumbent electrical provider, right? That they're like not allowed to. I don't know. This is just conjecture on my part of like, why is Verizon increasing their kind of half of the pole rental and National Grid isn't, and either they haven't caught up yet, or they're not allowed to, or they just haven't yet. All of
Yeah.
those could be possible.
Verizon is also under the utilities crowd, so they also have to justify their price raise. They have to to show the bookwork to prove it. So yeah, no, National Grid might be in that process, or maybe they're
Yeah.
Gail, just out of curiosity, do you think that what we pay to these, for pole rental charges to these utilities equals or is less than or more than what the town gets in revenue from, because, the town charges them for the use of their poles on town land or at least along our highways. The money flows both ways, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's a
mm,
tax though that
Yeah, it's a tax, but
yeah.
it's
I
property
used to know
tax.
those figures when I was on the Board of Assessors, but that's kind of drifted out of my mind right now. I could look that up.
it's just not, I just was curious, that's
Yeah.
all.
No, it's a good point, and it's very relevant actually right now because on the 20th of January, I guess it was just a week ago, I went to the select board meeting because they were having a poll hearing for
Mhm,
those,
that's right. Yeah, you mentioned
right?
that,
For
yeah.
that like 17 poles on Pratt Corner Road. I
Yeah.
read the documentation a little bit closer and we had assumed that they were going all the way to the substation for that upgrade. And it's not. It was only 17 poles kind of right at the start of Pratt Corner Road there. But anyway, I made the case to the um select board that it's not a null cost for us. And they actually didn't approve the polls, not
Oh,
because of us. Not because I want to be clear, it wasn't because of us. It wasn't because of us. It was because a resident uh gave a conservation committee complaint that one of the poles was in spitting distance of a wetland. And so the select board said, okay, National Grid, after you apply to the Conservation Committee and get approval to put your poles in, come back to us and then we'll stamp this. So, um, yeah,
we had to discuss that one down on Wendell Road, just where I live, where we with the pulse and spitting distance of wetland and creek, and and it was evaluated that a pole is a very non-invasive, thing, much less worse than the road itself, which has all sorts of yeah. So
right. Was there any discussion, Graham, during that Wendell Road stretch, and about the like leaching chemicals off of the treated poles?
it was they just decided that the whole thing is what they treat the poles with these days is less toxic. Yeah, but yeah, that's an interesting question. But I don't think there's much migration out of a pole, because otherwise they would lose their chemicals and rot away in less than 100 years that we see them standing for. So
All right. Yeah, I'm asking because it was raised in that resident's letter about the concerns there. Okay.
yeah.
Um so anyway, I think that the project is still going to happen. It's just going to be delayed a little bit. Um
Thank you for keeping on top of it, Gail.
sure.
But delayed until, who is it again who has to bless this?
The Conservation Committee and then the
Conservation.
Select Board will sign off on it.
Okay.
So just to wrap up that conversation, I'm gonna bump our whole rental fees in our budget since it's not set in stone yet by 20%. I'm just anticipating that if not this year, next year, National Grid is gonna come
Mhm.
and raise their rental fees as well. So we'll just do 20% across the board.
Very prudent.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the right way to go on the budget. Remember though, National Grid was the company that didn't bill us at all for pole rental for several years after we got going. So they just may not be as on top of this as
It's true.
Verizon.
Their
I
back office may still be a mess, so who
Yeah,
knows?
Right.
Verizon is, totally on top of billing you. So
All right, let's see. So something I'm working on right now is the half year report for the digital equity grant. So that's due in a couple of weeks. So I've been collecting invoices and writing out descriptions for MBI. Um, the progress really comes down to about 5 or 6 bullet points. So we've installed the robust free public Wi-Fi in the new library building. That's kind of the biggest thing that we've done. And we're in progress of trying to do the same thing at the town hall. Oh, speaking of which, Graham, I never followed up with you about getting that Ubiquity router to just
Yes.
try it at my house
Yeah.
before we install it publicly.
And I would have
So
dropped it off, but I have yet to take it back when I had to wait until everything was settled with how the public Wi-Fi APs were being, you know, they had to be all tweaked and stuff like that. So I delayed until everything was running there smoothly as public Wi-Fi in the library, and then I have to remove it. So I have to take the traveling one that's in my basement. I have to take it back there. At the moment, it's not aligned with what the ones there are,
I
and I
see.
have to remove it, and then I have to add it back in again, and then I'll bring it to your place. So, and then you'll be able to run it.
All right, thanks. I'm
Yeah.
glad
So
to run the
at the
test.
moment, it's just not ready, but I can do that in the next few days.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's see. Also at the library, we outfitted the little conference room with a nice big monitor, AV technology, and two new laptops that we paid for public use. Um, we sent a mailing to all 76 remaining households in town that don't have the internet service, offering them the free installation for anyone who qualifies, and then just reminding them we have a pretty big subsidy of $700 if you want to get internet installed. Um, so we've had like since October when that letter went out, we've had like three new installations not paid for through digital equity because the people didn't qualify. I can't say that it's a direct correlation, like that letter inspired people to do it, or if it was just house turnover or whatever. But so far, we haven't had any people who qualified under the digital equity rules to have a totally free installation. Um, there's still the unconnected house on Macedonia Road, but we can't do anything with that until the snow thaws. Because it's so remote and getting uh um estimate in there is just impossible at the moment with all of the feet and feet of snow. Um, so anyway, I'll stay on top of that. Um, let's see. So we start and again, I'm just kind of like going through the things that we've done so far with this grant already. The pilot program offering beyond the router support for in-home help and devices is going, although it has not been embraced as much as I thought it would be. We've only had actually one call in December for that of somebody needing an in-home visit for a device that was not a break fix issue.
So
Um,
one call
one
covered
call,
the whole.
one
Oh
call.
yeah.
Yep. Um, we conducted one learning session for seniors on safe online shopping and smartphone use. And there's going to be three more to come. So that was held in December. It was attended by 6 people, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot for Shutesbury. So um, they were enthusiastic about that. And of course, we're evaluating the routers for the townwide replacement. So that's kind of where we stand with the grant so far. Um, and let's see, anything else that we should discuss before I move on to routers?
Uh,
Gail, in response to your question uh, by email about how many people logged into the public Wi-Fi in the library, and as you know from the email I sent back to you, in a 2 week period, it was like around 200 devices that were in the public Wi-Fi. Um, and as you know, you can look at the traffic on the Ubiquity cloud management tool, and I was looking at them and I was thinking, oh, no traffic, no traffic, no traffic, and I realized, oh well, of course, most people take their phones to the library, but they don't go there to use their phones to talk to anyone. So they're basically they're on Wi-Fi calling. They're available, and it's a bit of a dead spot, that part of town. So they don't. A lot of people wouldn't have a cellular option there. So the the 150 or whatever of these, iPhones and Androids that you can see are in there. Most of them didn't get called, didn't get phoned while they were there, and they didn't phone anyone else. But you can see the laptops that some people have gone with laptop type devices that they were using the public Wi-Fi and doing what they wanted to do with it. But of course, the library has those devices that the grant we've given with the grant. So a lot of people don't, they might bring their laptop, but they would end up using the devices that are in the library if they're available.
Yeah, I don't get the sense yet that people have developed any kind of rhythm of like going to the library to do remote work or anything because it's so new and also it's winter and no one wants to leave home. So there's that. Um, okay.
Yeah, a couple things.
Hmm.
On the houses that are not current subscribers, we've been running this number, what's it, around 70, you said, places that aren't connected. Seem to have been running that for some time. Um, would it be at all difficult for you to just send out a list of those addresses to us? And, we might, each of us could look at those addresses and each one of us might say, oh, that's so-and-so's place. Here's the reason that they're not subscribing. So, rather than continuing to follow up there, um, each of us might know the reason for this and could kind of take it off the list that of people ought to be followed up with.
Sure, glad to send that list around. Let me make a note of it. Yeah, I did do one comb through of the addresses I knew that shouldn't go on there. Things like the Lake Wyola Clubhouse, for example, right? It's used for 2 months out of the year. There's no reason, and they're never going to want to connect to that. Or places like uh the State Beach House, which is it's an abandoned house at at this point. So things like that. But yeah, it would be great to know of any others. And I do have it all in a database.
Okay.
So um yeah, I would love to make more notes on it of kind of where we stand in installations.
Okay. The other thing I was going to mention, I've been interested in seeing my colleagues' reviews of the routers, but I wasn't testing any of the new routers myself. I had some kind of overall thoughts about the project, but maybe we should go ahead with the discussion of the individual routers first, and then I had kind of a bit wider picture thought on it.
Yeah, yeah. That's anything else about other things before we move on to routers? All right. Um, all right, so Andy, just so you know, what we're about to talk about is the evaluation of a router upgrade for all residents. So we're looking at a couple of um, Wi-Fi 7 routers that to replace the Linksys routers that everybody currently has installed in their homes. And so that's why we're talking about this.
Great. Yeah. I'm running the Eero Wi-Fi 6 routers at home. So yeah, because we our house is a little too big for the one router, so we have the mesh network.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're not alone in that. Yeah. And is it good for you? Like, is satisfactory? Are you getting the speeds you want from that?
The Eero is excellent. Yep.
Okay.
So I have two like remote units, and they're not hardwired. And they work pretty well. I mean, you kind of have to like get them like halfway to where you want to go, so they're still in the service enough to bump it. But they work pretty well. I had
Okay.
tried a Linksys repeater, but I kind of had the issue where I set the name to be the same, but you'd kind of have to switch your device. It wasn't seamless. But with the
Yeah.
Euros, I walk around the house and it just you can see which one is closest. So anyway, good positive experience with these. But yeah, cool.
Well,
Nice. Is it?
that's because the arrows, like many of the others, have proprietary software that enables them to work well in these situations, which is going to be a problem, I think, for a lot of our subscribers who have invested in one particular mesh unit. And well, I'm sure we're going to talk about this quite a bit, this particular
Yeah.
mesh.
Yeah, yeah. The Eero has an app, so like when a new device joins the
Yeah,
network, I get a notification, and yeah,
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah,
But it's proprietary.
yeah.
I've thought about running OpenWRT on some routers and stuff, but yeah, I haven't gone that far. So
Yeah.
All right, let's yeah, just dive into the routers. So I sent around the comparison summary of our tests. Any before we really get into it, is there anything on that summary I sent that needs to be corrected? Anything I wrote that was kind of inaccurate? It looks like Craig had some things to say that I haven't had a chance to look at. Let's see.
Well, yeah, for the TP-Link unit that I'm testing, I said qualitatively that it was comparable, but it is not. I think it's a somewhat defective unit. It just out of the box, its lights don't go. Its indicator lights, it's supposed to have a nice little blinking light range. Those lights have never come on in any of this. Yeah, never turned on, and I could test it in the remote parts of my house, but it never came close to my Kalex speed. So um, I think because Jim, you got comparable speeds on your test of the TP Link, the same unit. So I'm assuming that there's either something. I installed it twice. I don't think I made a mistake on the installation. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. But I think I've got a defective unit. The
Oh, oh,
It's high speed when you're right 5 feet away line of sight,
oh,
but
sure.
as soon as you go to a remote place in the house, obviously, or not obviously, but one of the possibilities is it's just not steering. It's just not steering its antenna as it's supposed to. So that's
A-
I don't
And
know.
you push down the light button. There's a light button on the front of the TP Link. I think they say, for
Yeah,
two.
there's a nighttime setting and a daytime setting, something like that.
No, no, it turns the indicator lights on and off.
Oh,
Um,
okay. There's a power button on the top. You're
no, no,
not
it's
talking.
the three buttons. One
Yeah,
is
okay.
the
The
one is
WPS
for
button, a
the
power button.
WPS button, the Wi-Fi on-off button, and the third one is the lights. And you have to, I think,
Okay.
hold it down for a couple of seconds, and then they should come on and
I
then go
didn't
off
notice
if you.
okay, then I didn't do the light button. But
Yeah.
so okay, so that explains the light's not working. Um, I saw the other two buttons and didn't see the light button. But I saw online, I saw on the management tool, you can change the light settings with software and nighttime and daytime or something like that. I can't remember. But
Okay.
so I tried that and nothing showed. But if there's an on-off switch, then I didn't see that. Okay, thank you. I'll try that as soon as the meeting's over. But in any case, the speeds didn't they just did not come anywhere near
Mhm.
what you and Craig seem to report as well. So I suspect that well, I'll give this to you, Jim, and you can test it and see if you can get it to do anything good. But I'm unimpressed by that. But I am still prejudiced towards TP-Link. But not on the basis of this. The other thing I agree with Craig's observation that um, just a general point that I changing to Wi-Fi 7. I'm not very motivated to do it from Wi-Fi 6 for my case. But even if I had an older router and it was doing what I wanted, it's like it was a pain in the butt to have to get my printer onto the TP link and then getting it back onto. So anyhow, you know, if I had mesh stuff, then I would be looking, as everyone has said, of upgrading my mesh extenders because they all seem to be proprietary. If you want not to drop calls, then they'll probably work with each other, but they won't carry calls handing them off properly. So, I think that we should think about offering people who want an upgrade because they're dissatisfied with their routers. Those people, definitely we should offer a router upgrade, but I don't think, I'm not convinced that everybody needs to do this at all. So,
I totally agree with you on that. Especially
yeah,
if we do propose this, we should be very detailed about what to expect. Especially if the subscriber uses a mesh unit of any kind, because that's where the disappointment is going to settle in. That's what I found out when I set this up next door.
yeah,
The mesh units, well, they worked because there's a generic connection that any mesh unit makes with the router once you press that button and
yeah.
make the hookup. But then most of the routers, ASUS and TP-Link, have their own in their own um, proprietary units that make all sorts of claims about no drop calls, this and that, and one thing or another. So anyone, I, I, well, when I installed it next door, none of the units measured up to the Linksys, which is unfortunate. The ASUS unit did the best. The TP-Link was very unsuitable. It just didn't have the connecting power or whatever it was. And but the ASUS unit was better, but still, as I indicated in that discussion I sent around to everybody, it still is it still wasn't quite as satisfactory in a very busy household for um, next door. Um, so well, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, with all of this talk about the mesh units and knowing what I know about a lot of our support tickets, the complaints about speed are because of distance away from the router, right?
Mhm,
And anyone who's in the same room as their router is like, this is awesome.
mhm.
But as soon as you get a room or two away, that's when the support calls start coming in of the internet stinks and it's slow and my calls get dropped. And so the only way that we're going to solve that, I think, is through offering actual like mesh units with
Mm,
and correct me, am I thinking about this correctly, that I think what this experiment has showed us is that having kind of like the highest powered router that's available, which is these Wi-Fi 7 units, it doesn't really make a difference for speeds, and a lot of it has to be line of sight. And if we're really gonna give customers what they want, which is excellent full house coverage, and especially for Wi-Fi calling, are we doing the wrong thing?
yeah, that's a good point. That maybe we offer people a mesh unit. It's too bad that the router they have right now is barely Wi-Fi 5. But it would be a Linksys mesh unit that one would add to it, and that would catch the dead spot if that's what they're dealing with. And um, yeah, so could be another area of of an upgrade that definitely some people need.
Yeah, I'll just say it. I am disappointed by these tests. Like Craig made the good point of like, this isn't going to wow any customers. They're going to be like, well, it's kind
Yes.
of the same as what we had before.
Yes.
And in introducing a new router, it also introduces these new issues of, wait a minute, I got everything set up. And the mesh units I bought are working with a link system at least as much as they're going to. And then we introduce like, well, it's kind of a comparable router, and now you have to reset up all of the mesh units, and they may or may not work because there may be like Wi-Fi 5, and this is a Wi-Fi 7, and there's a disconnect there. Um,
Yeah,
so
and the benefits of Wi-Fi 7, as we've discussed, are for dense usage, in apartments and buildings where there's a lot of channels with a lot of potential for interference, and so we're solved where some of the money that goes into a Wi-Fi 7 is just money that won't benefit nearly anyone. You have to be pretty close to, even down on even down at the lake, it's not like an apartment complex. So
no.
that's what they're solving with Wi-Fi 7 for a considerable part. The other reason why a Wi-Fi 7 or a Wi-Fi 6 won't do a lot better than than Wi-Fi 5 is because the microwave limits are energy limits that they're just safety and there's an amount of energy there's you can't be pumping more energy into a Wi-Fi 7 router or AP because it's microwave pollution and you don't want to be singeing people's eyebrows or keeping their coffee warm. Um, and that said, by the way, when I give you the outside AP for you to play with, it's outdoor APs are rated for higher energy, so it's an important thing that it's not the sort of thing you want to test it next to your bed or even in your office if you're sitting with it a lot of the time. So just a little further away. Uh,
Gail, you mentioned your disappointment in the results of the test. And I would just say this is the time to get the disappointment and
Good
not
mm,
point.
on
Good
sunk
point.
several $100,000 of our
Yeah.
depreciation electronics stabilization fund into new routers for the whole town, only to find out, this isn't any better than what we had, and gee, some cases it's not as good. That would be a real upsetting disappointment. So, yeah,
Thank you for pointing that out. You are
It's,
correct.
it's what committees are for, aren't they?
Yeah.
Committee work. Yeah, maybe a Wi-Fi, maybe a Wi-Fi 6 router and an extender package would be an upgrade to offer to people who are finding deficient service in their house. Now those are the people with the biggest houses. The egalitarian in me hates to favor the people who need who aren't suffering but I could let that go.
yeah,
Yeah, well, I mean, we could do something like we've talked about this before of if you just want the one router, it's free. But if
Yeah,
you live in a larger house but okay, wait, I also want to play devil's advocate though. Needing more mesh units doesn't necessarily mean that you live in a big fancy house. You could live in a
a
old
metallic house.
old house with horsehair plaster,
Mm,
and you have your office in the rickety attic,
no,
and the signal just isn't getting there. So it's not always a like a one-to-one big house, big
no, yeah,
big need thing.
sure,
um
yeah,
but
yeah,
anyway, I just we went after, or like, we sent back all of those Wi-Fi 6s and really went for the Wi-Fi 7 because of the optics of it, right? Of
Mm.
if we're gonna spend the money and spend our depreciation fund on this big upgrade, we want to make sure that we're getting the latest and greatest because we're outfitting our residents for the next, well, another 6, 7 years, with the technology. Um, but if it's not going to serve, then I am great to let go of the optics on this and, explain to people that we're not choosing Wi-Fi 7 because it's not working the way that we wanted it to.
Gail, could you just refresh my memory on the amount of the digital equity grant for the routers? Is it 25,000?
Yeah, it's about 25 grand.
Yeah. I mean, quite a bit of what we're doing now and been doing the past couple of months are with that 25,000 in mind and the deadline on spending that 25,000 of less than 6 months from now. Um, and yet we also realize that if we were talking replacing all the routers in town, it's a very small, it's only going to pick up a small percentage. So yeah, if we were able to, are able to use that 25,000 towards something we really want to do on the routers, good. But if it's not working, we may have to let that go. Um, the other thing is to say, okay, what could we do with that? Um, could we buy mesh units for people that need them? Um, well, maybe most people that need them already have them. Could we, well, okay, I said I had kind of a bigger picture, I can launch into that. Before I saw Craig's and Jim's emails of today, but I'd seen the table you sent around with the results of the testing. I had in mind, well, we're probably going to be buying the Asus routers. And I had in mind they're around $200. Is that?
Yep.
Yeah. So we could buy 125. And so this was the thought I'd had. Well, so say we buy like 125 of them with that 25,000, we could offer them to the first 125 people that sign up, and they could be our beta testers. Um, I'm now after listening to this discussion, having read what Jim said and what Craig said, saying, well, maybe that's not the way to go. But is there still something we could do with that 25,000 that would be useful, would benefit some of our subscribers, and would benefit us by getting um, information back, satisfaction from the customers on how these things work, more than just the three members of this board that have been testing them. And if we have them installed for a couple of years, check and see what the reliability, dependability is on them. My feeling is the Linksys routers have actually been very dependable.
Mhm.
They've been great.
Yeah.
They've
It's a
been
good
really
brand.
good, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think
But
we made a really good choice there.
and
Easy,
so
they're
I'm
easy
not
to use. The durability is great. Yes, we've had some failures. And as they age, we're seeing more of them, more failures and replacements. But overall, they've been very good.
How would
Um,
that go, Gail, as an expenditure in responding to exactly what you're suggesting, Steve, of getting a bunch, given that we're getting to, 6 years or whatever, how many years since we bought the Lynxes, and they are failing, and there will be a curve of more failing, because that's just what electronics do. That we could get the replacement at the moment, Shell goes out and if a router is broken, then they replace it. But we could buy the next 50 or whatever of the failing routers, and then they'd be in hand. Um, which would use the money in an appropriate way. And also, like you said, Steve, maybe buy extenders that matched the could even match up with the new whatever the replacement routers for replacing broken ones is. So
I think for the
Yeah,
grant,
the
we
only
probably have
problem with
to,
that is we can't use the grant to buy stuff and hold it in stock.
yeah, we'd have to
Yeah.
install them.
Wow, that's
But
well,
that can be done. I mean, my thought also on this, if we're just doing a, phased rollout and these people are testing the new ones for us, we could say we would expect these to go to customers who are comfortable installing them themselves, which I think a significant number of our customers would be. There others be also a significant number that would not be comfortable, but um, if we just so we've only got the expense of the hardware and the installation customers can do themselves. Um, that seemed like a reasonable way to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. I'm still kind of reluctant to distribute these routers knowing that they're not impressive, right? I like even, like we'd be yes, we'd be spending the grant money, but then we'd be putting these routers out that are like, yeah, they're fine. But they're not a big improvement. Um, I'm wondering if the next thing that we should do is buy a handful of ASUS mesh units specifically designed for this Wi-Fi 7 router and test that to give us the answer of, is
Mm.
this really like a mesh problem? And is this network excellent if you get all ASUS routers and all ASUS Wi-Fi units?
So continue this testing in our group.
Yes, continue this testing in our group. I now have an Amazon account finally, um, with the town so that I can buy these quicker. It's not going to take weeks and weeks. They could be here by like Saturday. Um, so that's one test we could run. Another one is um, go back to Wi-Fi 6 and see what kind of like mesh packages are out there, that might be more appropriate than chasing this Wi-Fi 7 dream.
I think that's better value for what shoots for years for our
Mhm.
typical residential situation.
But I don't think you're going to find, no matter what router we choose, that we're going to get about the same result. I don't think the Wi-Fi 6 routers are suddenly going to, exceed this signal strength over distance testing that Craig has done and I have done. We're going to get roughly the same results with Wi-Fi 6 routers as we did with these Wi-Fi 7 ones, because the power is limited, on 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. It's a certain amount of power, and there's no exceeding that, of course, and so the signal strengths are not going to vary all that much. I thought the Asus did a little bit better. I'm not sure why, and that I was pretty consistent watching that. But, even if we get a completely different unit, it's going to reveal the same results, that we're finding with the Wi-Fi 7 routers. So, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I'm not looking, I'm not expecting any other models to be significantly better or worse than
Mhm.
even the Linksys that we have.
Yeah.
I think that one of the tests that this has proved out, and we've tested three of them, and well, plus Craig's done his own, with his, and they're all pretty much the same.
Mhm.
I don't think that we are going to be wowed, but the setup and the mesh coverage, I think is the thing that we can look at next.
Mhm.
So
But for us to supply both a new router and a couple of mesh units to everyone on our nickel, is that po-
is it,
appropriate?
um, well, we can afford it. I don't know. Appropriate is a different question. But we, I need to look again at what some of those other mesh packages cost. But this ASUS model that we're looking at is 200.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there's Wi-Fi 6 routers plus mesh unit packages for that or less out there.
Mm-hmm.
which would be better value for someone who's got dead spots. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, if we look at it from our customer resident perspective, what are they looking for? They're looking for good, consistent speed, full house coverage, not dropped calls.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, and I was hoping that with these Wi-Fi 7 routers that they would be powerful enough to do that. But what we're finding just they're not. That I think we just really have to start looking at mesh systems. And, the testing that Jim's done is showed us that, okay, well, even if you have mesh units already, the problem is they don't play nice. That it all has to be kind of part of the same system
In order for them to
in
work
order
their
to be
best.
user
Yeah.
friendly and work.
Yeah, there are a lot of different mesh systems out there. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And they're fitted specifically to certain units. And um, now I don't know. I'm guessing, as I said, I've said it a couple of emails. I'm guessing that most people, if they have mesh units here in Shutesbury, are using the Linksys mesh unit, which is I think the RX 7000. And now I don't know how proprietary they are. I, whether they are actually designed to work, especially with the Linksys router or not. I don't think that's the case. It's only when you get to these really high-end routers that getting high-end mesh units along with them really begins to deliver nice, thorough coverage throughout the home. And I have a feeling, you have to really pay up for that feature.
Yeah.
Just a guess.
Well, let's look at it. What do you think of getting some ASUS mesh units specifically designed for that router and just seeing what happens?
Yeah.
Um, as a kind of like just a next move here of how do we find a product that is going to meet the criteria here? And then also look at some of the Wi-Fi 6 bundles that would be more price conscious.
Sure.
And test some of those.
Yeah. Good idea.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay.
I think I like the
Anything?
Wi. I think I like the Wi-Fi 6 option the best. But
Okay.
anyway, whatever,
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't have enough information yet. I mean, I like
Yeah.
it too, just because it's like one-stop shopping and something that we could offer to everyone if we could get it close to or under $200 per household. Um, but let's see. Let's see what we got. Um, I am going to go back to our original spreadsheet that we had about that where when we started looking at alternate routers and look at the Wi-Fi 6 options and I'm going to uh, choose a couple of those and also look into ones that come in those the packages
Mhm.
because ultimately that's what we might have to get. I could see us buying like here's a huge batch of routers and then a smaller batch of mesh units and people can just you know get what they need during installation. Um, so yeah. Let's see for any of you, is there any of the models from your memory, and you don't have to answer now, you can email me after taking a look, that you specifically would like to test out, and I can have them ordered.
I'll just chime in quickly to say I like the idea of testing the Wi-Fi 6 and the mesh, because I even being fairly technical had some issues finding an appropriate like extender for the current router that like worked without dropping in between. And yeah, if you had a setup that was, people could, that was tested to, actually connect between them, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think from a user friendliness standpoint of setup, knowing that so many people's houses are like people in Shrewsbury have like kind of big houses. Some of them are pretty big, and if they're not big, they're kind of like spread out. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, let's look at some of these mesh systems. Even if we're not getting the Wi-Fi 7, but I'm much happier now letting go of Wi-Fi 7 after these tests of like it's not that much greater. Like, you don't stand there next to your router and be like, wow, these speeds are amazing. No, it's about the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never had a speed issue. It's always been range,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. And and also people don't, very few people have Wi-Fi 7 capable routers too. I mean, I don't like devices. They're all
Oh
especially
yeah,
if they're high,
the 6 gig stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
the 6 gig
Yeah.
stuff, so that feature is kind of useless for most people here in Shutesbury, I would think.
Yeah, we do have to keep the future in mind.
Yeah.
But it's going to be, it's going to be 7 years before, the cell tech or the mobile technology is kind of goes beyond this. So I think we're okay.
Yeah.
Um,
But when we put the message out, it'll be, do you have deficiencies in? We could spin it in. Do you have deficiencies? Do you need a better router? We will, we'll provide it. Uh, and those people who have that awareness are probably able to install them themselves. So,
Yeah, and no matter how this goes, I think that managing customer expectations is going to be a big part of it. That
Mm.
here's letting people know what they can and can't expect of, promising that you're going to have amazing speeds throughout your whole house and you're never going to get a call dropped and that's just unrealistic. And we may find that none of the routers we look at are much better, but we're like we have to start replacing these electronics anyway. So you're getting something pretty comparable to what you had, but it's just updated and 7 years newer. All right. So action items. Like I said, I'll order some ASUS mesh units specifically designed for the model we were looking at. So that we can just get a kind of like a baseline of what happens when you take one of these very high-end routers and get mesh units specifically designed for it. Is it great? Is it, the same? Is it terrible? What is it? And then also get some Wi-Fi 6 mesh systems to compare to that. So help me out with what what I should order for that. We'll start with the ASUS mesh units. Um, so I'll get at least one for Jim, Graham, and Craig. So three Asus meshes. Should I get six of them so you each have two? So you can place
yeah, no,
them.
I think, well, I would only put one in. I mean, if one works, then two's gonna two will
Okay.
work. So,
You think what one will give us the information that we need?
for me, it would. Yeah. No.
Okay. Jim, how
Well,
about you? One or
well,
two?
well, at least two. If I'm going to test this at my neighbor's household, I'm going to need at
Sure.
least two.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
What should I do? Also, my unit is technically defective because I wrote you about this. The Ethernet ports went south on it unexpectedly, which really right off the bat, which upset me. But it still is. They don't have any need for using Ethernet, Ethernet out ports. So fortunately, the WAN port, the input port, works fine, and there's no change there. But um, I'd rather have a unit that was working 100%, I guess. We could we return it? I don't know what to do.
Okay. Um, let's see.
I can do a few days with, I haven't installed the
Mm.
Asus, I just put the Calyx back in, but I could give you the Asus that I have to test, which is probably this very same model, right?
Yes,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So I bring that over next week, middle of the week, if that
Yeah, the
works.
only the only problem is then is that Graham, then we don't have one for you to test. Tell you what, let me order another Asus router and let's return the defective one.
Yeah. Do
Jim, do you still have the
you,
box on that?
oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, I have everything. Do you take them to Whole Foods? Apparently, that's the way to go. I don't know much about purchasing these things, but you just take it in there, you throw it in their face, and they take it from there. They're
Yep.
apparently they're very
Yep,
easy to
that's how it
do.
goes.
Oh, oh, so you know about it. Okay, great.
Yep.
Oh, well, then that
Yeah,
will
so
make it
let me get Jim, I'll get you another router. And then when it comes in, swap them out.
sure.
Put the new router there, and then
Mhm.
box up the old one, and I'll get a return slip for it. And you can either give it to me, or we can take it, or you can take it to Whole Foods. We'll figure that out.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good.
All right. So I'm gonna get one mesh unit for Graham. Jim, do you want two or three? How many, well, here's a question. How many mesh units does that testing household have at at the
Three,
moment?
but I think two would work.
Okay.
I, I don't think I don't think it's necessary to have three if these mesh units are really pretty good. Um, but they do have three in the house now as it is.
Okay.
But
Oh,
but they're
then
really
you
far.
need
But the
three.
third, but the third one is really far apart, and I wonder whether it's really working. But it's hard to speculate.
Be a good test then, Jim.
Yeah, yeah. But I definitely need two.
You got it. All right. Great. And I'll get two for Craig.
Oh, yeah, that would be good, I think.
All right. And then in terms of the Wi-Fi 6 systems, well, I know Craig liked the Eros model that Andy mentioned. So I think we have, it's anecdotal, but two people so far have mentioned those. So I'm gonna get a couple of those and um I'll go through the list and see if there's any other models. I think I'll email around if I have any questions about what else we should test. We should probably do at least two though. Two Wi-Fi 6 mesh systems, just for comparison.
Well, maybe find the ones that have the package deal that you talked about.
Yeah.
That I think that's really important to sell it as a
Yep.
package.
Yeah. Compatibility almost guaranteed.
Right. They all come in the same wrapper.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good start.
Mhm. Um, all right. I think that's it. Anything else for tonight?
I hope nothing happened to Andy's car there.
No, no, he put a little he
Uh,
put something in the chat
there
that he
was
had
a
to
text,
drop.
so I say, okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I see it.
I'll
Yeah.
follow up with him and see if he has any other questions about how we run and hopefully he'll want to join us.
You can
Would be
mention
great.
that he can have a router to play with if he wants to.
No, it's to sweeten the deal of being an MLP member.
There you go.
Uh, Fantastic. Okay. Um, all right. Well, thank you so much for coming tonight, and I hope you all stay warm. And I'll be in touch with router information when I get them.
That
Motion
sounds
to
great,
adjourn.
Gail.
All right. Bye.
Good night.